In the bustling streets of Cairo, Roman Dimitry strode confidently alongside his soldiers, the eyes of the city's inhabitants following his every move with a mixture of awe and respect. His presence was commanding, his stature imposing, marking him unmistakably as the strongest swordsman Cairo had ever known. As Roman made his way, it was in this moment that Marquis Benedict, a figure of significance in his own right, stepped forth to intercept Roman's path. Benedict's admiration for Roman's unparalleled skills was evident as he praised the swordsman's recent victory over Count Nicholas, a feat that had sent shockwaves through the aristocratic circles of Cairo. Yet, beneath the veneer of admiration lay a subtle challenge, as Benedict's soldiers formed a barrier before Roman, blocking his passage and signaling the commencement of a weighty conversation. With a measured tone, Benedict delved into the intricacies of Roman's past endeavors, his words laced with a subtle undercurrent of curiosity and scrutiny. He mused aloud about the year-long preparations Roman had undertaken, a period of intense training and strategizing that had left many wondering about its purpose. It was a question that had lingered in Benedict's mind until this very moment when sudden clarity dawned upon him. It was for the Dimitry family, Benedict declared, his voice carrying a note of realization. To strengthen the Dimitry forces, to secure their position in the ever-shifting landscape of power and influence. With this revelation laid bare, Marquis Benedict inquires of Roman whether he will align himself with the aristocratic faction or diverge from the expected path. Benedict, with a touch of persuasion, expresses his approval should Roman opt for the former. However, he doesn't shy away from cautioning Roman about the potential costs associated with choosing the latter course. Benedict then turns the decision over to Roman, prompting him to reveal his choice. As Roman contemplates Benedict's words, a contemplative silence envelopes the scene, eventually leading the narrative into the recesses of Roman's memories. In a tense moment, Baek Joong-Hyuk, the elder brother of Roman from a past life, and leader of the Heavenly Demon Divine cult, confronts Joong-Hyuk, which was Roman's name in his previous life. Their exchange carries weight, for the decision Joong-Hyuk makes now will shape the future of their bond. The choice is clear. Will Joong-Hyuk embrace the allure of fame and riches, joining his other siblings alongside Baek Joong-Hyuk? Or will he instead stake his claim as the rightful heir to the leadership of the Heavenly Demon Divine cult, confronting Baek Joong-Hyuk head-on? For Roman, the decision had never been an easy one, a choice between duty and desire, between submission and defiance. Yet, as he stood at the crossroads of his fate once more, Roman found clarity in the depths of his soul. In search of what truly serves his own well-being, Roman ascends the staircase, grappling with his inner turmoil. As he reaches his brother, he utters a heartfelt apology before lifting his sword, a symbol of his resolve. With a heavy heart, he addresses his older sibling, expressing his inability to lead a life dictated by the desires of others. Back in the present, Roman echoed those same words to Benedict, who regarded him with a mixture of disbelief and disdain. To Benedict, Roman's decision may have seemed foolish. In the tense streets of Cairo, Marquis Benedict exuded confidence, convinced that he held both power and justification in the unfolding drama. He dismissed Roman's formidable strength, asserting that it would amount to nothing in their current situation. Benedict, with the weight of the central government's leadership behind him, declared the Dimitry family, notorious for their unrestrained attacks, as the culprits behind internal strife. With an authoritative bellow, Benedict commanded his soldiers to arrest Roman Dimitry for a comprehensive investigation. The soldiers, dutifully following orders, advanced towards Roman. However, the situation took an unexpected turn as Roman swiftly incapacitated one of the soldiers. Benedict stood in stunned silence, watching Roman's defiance unfold before him. Benedict questioned whether Roman was defying government orders and staging a rebellion. Roman, unyielding, clarified that his opposition was directed solely at Benedict, not the overarching authority of the king. He went further, asserting that Benedict himself was the one truly orchestrating a rebellion against established order. Benedict, frustrated by Roman's audacity, claimed that such arrogance would lead to the Dimitry family's downfall. He argued that the central government, as the representation of the king's will, held the moral high ground. Roman, however, was resolute in his belief that the king would be the ultimate arbiter of their actions. The situation escalated as Roman, sensing the need for decisive action, ordered his comrades, Chris and Kevin, to open up a path. The duo, loyal to Roman's cause, charged forward, swiftly taking down multiple soldiers in their path. Witnessing this unexpected turn of events, Marquis Benedict is overcome with astonishment. Never in his wildest imagination did he conceive that Roman would have the audacity to openly confront the troops of the central government amidst the bustling streets of Cairo. In a sudden turn of events, Benedict, accompanied by his officials, chose to flee the scene. Fearful of the repercussions, he ordered his remaining soldiers to attack Roman and promised substantial rewards for anyone who could capture the defiant swordsman. As the soldiers of the central government closed in on Roman, he displayed a mastery of combat, taking down their commander without hesitation. In Roman's mind, this marked the beginning of a necessary purge, a decisive moment where he would assert his stance against the perceived tyranny of Marquis Benedict and the central government. In the opulent chambers of the Cairo Kingdom's imperial castle, urgency permeated the air as a messenger burst in, breathless and wide-eyed, to deliver dire news to King Daniel. The bustling capital had become a battleground, with Roman Dimitry at its center, unleashing a one-sided massacre against the aristocratic faction. Shocked by the revelation, King Daniel's mind raced, grappling with the unsettling possibility of rebellion within his own kingdom. Reacting swiftly to the imminent threat, the Royal Knight Vice-Captain's voice boomed through the hall, commanding soldiers to mobilize all Royal Knights and Imperial security troops. Their paramount objective: fortify the castle defenses and ensure the safety of their sovereign. As the urgent orders echoed off the grand walls, King Daniel couldn't help but ponder the bitter inevitability of such chaos, wondering if it was the destiny of Cairo to be torn apart by internal strife. In an abrupt turn of events, a soldier approaches King Daniel with news of a surprising request. Roman Dimitry seeks an audience with the monarch. King Daniel, taken aback by this unexpected development, watches as Roman steps forward. Roman offers a respectful greeting, but King Daniel swiftly dismisses the formalities, urging Roman to delve straight into the heart of the matter, eager to hear his explanation for the situation at hand. Roman's account painted a vivid picture of confrontation and defiance. He recounted how Marquis Benedict, backed by a formidable retinue, had attempted to coerce him into aligning with the aristocratic faction following a public ranking battle. However, Roman, fiercely loyal only to Cairo's king, had staunchly rebuffed Benedict's overtures. In a bold gambit, Roman laid out a proposition before King Daniel, if the king would grant his unequivocal support, dubbing Dimitry as the Sword of Cairo. Roman vowed to eradicate the aristocratic faction and restore equilibrium to the kingdom's fractured power structure. As King Daniel registers his surprise, he entertains a hopeful thought. Perhaps Roman intends to eliminate the aristocratic faction on behalf of the king's interests. Curiosity piqued, King Daniel directly questions Roman's motives, wondering if Roman is currently seeking to strike a deal with the monarch. In response, Roman recounts his first-hand experience at the southern front line when the Hector kingdom breached Cairo's borders. Despite ample time to prepare for Hector's incursions, the defenses of Cairo crumbled in a sudden and unexpected onslaught. Roman attributed this catastrophic failure to the kingdom's internal divisions, exacerbated by the presence of four conflicting factions vying for dominance. If only the hierarchy of power had been correct, the occupation of the southern front line might have been avoided altogether. Roman posed a question to King Daniel, inquiring if Cairo had witnessed any changes in the past year, noting the tumultuous political landscape of the Salamander continent. He pressed further, questioning how long the king intended to passively observe. Roman asserted that the key figure to unite Cairo was not Marquis Benedict, but rather the individual who wielded control over the central government and acted as de facto king. In Roman's eyes, that person should be King Daniel himself. Upon hearing this revelation, Binder's thoughts race. Could it be that Roman is genuinely inclined to pledge allegiance to the king? The notion takes root in Binder's mind. Perhaps Roman's actions weren't driven by a desire to foment rebellion, but rather by a willingness to serve the monarch faithfully. Roman sought to reassure the king, acknowledging that King Daniel might perceive their actions as suspicious. However, Roman emphasized that Dimitry had committed their lives to this cause. With a sense of urgency, Roman implored the king to seize the opportunity that Dimitry had prepared. Before responding, King Daniel posed a question to Roman, inquiring about what Dimitry sought in return for orchestrating this stage. Roman's response stunned the king. He revealed his aspiration for the independence of the eastern region. By declaring it an independent territory and establishing it as a duchy, Roman argued, Dimitry would remain steadfastly loyal to Cairo, never forgetting their roots. The king grappled with this revelation, visibly taken aback by Roman's bold request for Dimitry's independence. Roman, however, remained resolute, urging the king to consider the greater good of Cairo when faced with difficult decisions. In Roman's view, sometimes sacrifices were necessary to ensure the prosperity and stability of the kingdom as a whole. As Roman's words echoed in the chamber, King Daniel found himself at a crossroads, contemplating the best course of action for the kingdom of Cairo. The weight of responsibility bore heavily upon his shoulders as he considered the implications of Roman's insights. Turning to Roman, King Daniel posed a hypothetical scenario, probing into the potential repercussions of Count Denver and Count Gregory joining forces. Roman's response was measured and astute, reflecting a deep understanding of the geopolitical landscape. He explained that the empire, represented by Valhalla, was unlikely to mobilize immediately due to logistical constraints. Additionally, Kronos, embroiled in conflicts to the south, had more pressing priorities than Cairo at present. Roman's analysis resonated with King Daniel, who recognized the complexity of the situation. Addressing Roman directly, the king remarks on Roman's ambitious plans to confront numerous adversaries within a relatively brief period. He voiced concerns about the unintended consequences of eliminating multiple enemies simultaneously, fearing that such actions could create new challenges for Cairo. It was a sobering reminder of the delicate balance of power within the kingdom. However, Roman remained steadfast in his conviction that decisive action was necessary to secure Cairo's future. With a solemn expression, he assured the king that while risks were inevitable, they must be faced head-on in pursuit of stability and prosperity. King Daniel, impressed by Roman's strategic acumen, couldn't help but smile, acknowledging the young warrior's remarkable insight. Yet, his moment of admiration was short-lived as Royal Knight Vice Captain Simon interjected, voicing opposition to Roman's proposal. Simon raised concerns that the Dimitris, including Roman, were seeking to exploit the situation for personal gain under the guise of righteousness. Roman met Simon's skepticism with a resolute rebuttal, challenging him to consider the alternatives. He pointed to the atrocities committed by the aristocratic faction and emphasized the Dimitris' willingness to confront them, seeking only fair recognition for their sacrifices. Roman argued that even if granted duchy status, the fate of the Dimitris would remain intertwined with Cairo's, as they had deep roots within the kingdom. Simon's frustration was palpable, but Roman remained steadfast in his commitment to justice and stability. He dismissed any insinuation of rebellion. In the intricate dance of power, Roman Dimitry drew lines in the sand, forcing King Daniel to confront the tumultuous reality unfolding within his realm. As Royal Knight Vice Captain Simon voiced concerns about the Dimitris' intentions, King Daniel found himself torn between acknowledging the valid points raised and the gnawing realization that his own incompetence had left him unable to control the fate of his land. King Daniel grappled with the notion that the Dimitris, particularly Roman, had evolved into an uncontrollable force, detached from the grip of the Cairo imperial family. The implications were profound, prompting the king to confront a pivotal choice: accept the current state of affairs or embark on a radical journey to redefine the very essence of Cairo. In a moment of clarity, King Daniel considered the alternative factions vying for influence. He weighed the purported impure intentions of the Dimitris against the manipulative puppetry employed by other factions. The transparency of Roman Dimitri's ambitions resonated with the king, and in a solemn declaration, King Daniel pledged to honor of the Cairo imperial family by conferring the status of a dukedom upon the eastern region, including the Dimitri territory. Baron Dimitry would ascend to the esteemed title of duke, symbolizing a tangible shift in the kingdom's dynamics. With a stern countenance, King Daniel implored Roman to mete out justice by punishing Marquis Benedict, the instigator of chaos within Cairo. This directive underscored the gravity of the situation and the king's desire for a resolution that would restore order and stability. As the scene transitions to the pro-Valhalla faction, Count Denver reflects on the formidable nature of Roman Dimitri's actions. With Roman's bold attack on Marquis Benedict in the heart of Cairo, Denver perceives a relentless clash looming between the Dimitri family and the aristocratic faction, each determined to prevail at any cost. Denver speculates that Roman's next destination is the imperial palace, where he likely aims to solicit the king's support in his struggle against the aristocratic faction. Envisioning a monumental confrontation between the royal faction and the combined forces of Dimitri and the aristocratic faction, Denver sees an opportunity for Valhalla to exploit the chaos to its advantage, leveraging the ensuing conflict to shift the balance of power in their favor. In a sudden interruption, a soldier bursts into Count Denver's presence, signaling trouble. Count Denver swiftly inquires about the nature of the issue at hand. The soldier grimly reports that Roman Dimitry has spearheaded a forceful incursion into the Valhalla mansion. At that very moment, Roman strides into the office, his entrance punctuated by the forceful slam of the soldier onto the floor. In a commanding tone, Roman directs Count Denver to accept the imperial directives. Count Denver is taken aback by Roman's unexpected presence at the Valhalla faction headquarters, considering the ongoing conflict at the aristocratic faction's location. Count Denver realizes the need to compose himself in this surprising turn of events. Count Denver, perplexed, questions the validity of Roman's mention of imperial orders. Roman, undeterred, accuses Count Denver of colluding with Valhalla, alleging the theft of crucial Cairo secrets. According to Roman, the king of Cairo has commanded him to apprehend Count Denver in response to these alleged actions. With a steely gaze, Roman delivers a stern warning to Count Denver. He asserts that any attempts by Count Denver to deceive or manipulate the situation will only result in his classification as an accomplice to the rebellion. In such a scenario, Roman declares his obligation to carry out Count Denver's immediate execution. Frustration and disbelief surged within Count Denver as he vehemently denied the charges of rebellion. Count Denver raises a cautionary point to Roman, questioning whether he comprehends the repercussions of his actions, as Valhalla will assuredly retaliate. In response, Roman issues a chilling warning, advising Count Denver to measure every word henceforth. Drawing his sword, Roman demands Count Denver to lower his voice, emphasizing the gravity of the situation. Roman asserts that Count Denver fails to grasp the full extent of his predicament. This time, Roman declares, the conflict transcends mere suppression of the aristocratic faction. He vows to eradicate all traitors aligned with Valhalla and Kronos. Count Denver is left speechless, stunned by the gravity of Roman's resolve. Meanwhile, in the realm of the pro-Kronos faction, Count Gregory engaged in a heated exchange with Simon, a prominent figure in the royal faction. Count Gregory warned of the repercussions that would befall the royal faction for their actions, hinting at potential retaliation from the powerful Kronos Empire. He underscored the inherent danger in provoking the empire, whose expansionist ambitions posed a significant threat to Cairo's stability. Simon, recognizing the validity of Count Gregory's concerns, approached him cautiously, acknowledging the ever-present specter of Kronos' influence. With the king's decree solidifying Cairo's trajectory, there was no turning back. Count Gregory's realization dawned as he locked eyes with Simon, recognizing the weight of the moment. But before he could fully absorb the gravity of the situation, Simon's forceful push sent him sprawling to the ground. Asserting his authority, Simon vowed to personally confront any threat posed by Kronos should they breach Cairo's borders. His words mirrored Roman Dimitry's earlier sentiments, underscoring the royal faction's determination to eradicate potential adversaries. The scene then shifted to the Benedict territory, where Marquis Benedict grappled with frustration upon learning of the Dimitri's allegiance to the king. While he had anticipated the central government's bid to seize power, the sudden turn of events caught him off guard. Marquis Benedict contemplates that by successfully rallying the majority of the forces within the aristocratic faction, he should be poised to seize control of Cairo with relative ease. Marquis Benedict reflects on Roman's formidable prowess, acknowledging that while Roman may have emerged as the most formidable swordsman following his victory over Count Nicholas, the tides of fortune are not always in his favor. With determination, Benedict instructs his subordinate to assemble all members of the aristocratic faction and urge them to mobilize their forces towards the capital. However, his plans were thwarted when a soldier delivered troubling news. Count Parchus had rebuffed his call to arms. Frustrated by this unexpected setback, Marquis Benedict resorted to a magical communication with Count Parchus, questioning his sanity for defying orders and shirking the scheduled meeting. Count Parchus, however, remained resolute in his defiance, asserting that blind obedience to Marquis Benedict was a thing of the past. He expressed confidence in Roman Dimitri's ability to prevail in the looming conflict, signaling a decisive shift in his allegiances. Despite Marquis Benedict's warnings of potential regret, Count Parchus remained unwavering, convinced of the righteousness of his decision. Count Parchus's confession to Marquis Benedict marked a pivotal moment. As he acknowledged his wrongdoing, he understood that his days were numbered. Yet, despite his initial betrayal, Count Parchus was resolved to stand by Roman's side and do whatever he could for his cause. With a tone of urgency, Count Parchus reminded Marquis Benedict of the rumors circulating about Roman's benevolence towards his people. He emphasized that Marquis Benedict, as the leader of the prestigious aristocratic faction, seemed oblivious to the grim reality facing them, the imminent downfall of their faction. Marquis Benedict's frustration mounted at this harsh truth. Meanwhile, Count Valentino's declaration of support for Roman Dimitry signaled a shift in the political landscape. With neutral forces beginning to align themselves with Roman, the balance of power within Cairo was undergoing a seismic shift. Dimitry, an ally of the Valentino family, has bribed all the mercenaries in Cairo. This move comes in response to the actions of neutral forces led by the Marquis of Valentino. Due to this, the aristocratic faction can no longer be easily dealt with by soldiers. The scene shifts to a meeting hall where King Daniel and Roman, along with others, gather to strategize. Roman informs the group that Paulos, from the aristocrats faction, along with other families under his command, has decided to join Roman's side. King Daniel reflects that if he hadn't accepted Dimitri's offer, the aristocrats would have likely succeeded in their coup attempt. He acknowledges that Roman and Dimitry are the driving forces behind this war. Roman points to a map, explaining that if the aristocrats had managed to assemble their forces safely, they would have advanced on the capital. However, given the current circumstances, they will be forced into a defensive position. With all factions now mobilized, Roman sees an opportunity for the royal faction to deal with the rebels decisively. King Daniel pledges the full support of the royal family to Roman, stating that Roman's orders will be treated as the king's own. In this war, Roman is appointed as the commander-in-chief, which he accepts humbly. The scene shifts to Benedict's castle, where the remaining members of the aristocratic faction have gathered. Marquis Benedict informs them that the royal troops will likely invade their lands within a week. They must secure the gates, prepare for defense, and await the opportunity to strike back. A member notes the surprising shift of Marquis Valentino from a strict neutral stance to supporting Roman Dimitry. The group discusses their chances of winning the war, with one member expressing doubt, while another suggests they must seize the moment. The faction found itself in a precarious position, unable to utilize half of its combat power. Concerned members suggested reaching out to potential allies among the supporters of Kronos and Valhalla. Among them, a yellow-haired member emphasized that leaders from both factions had been apprehended, implying that offering favorable terms could sway them to Marquis Benedict's side. Benedict, the leader of the faction, approved of the plan, his steely resolve evident in his demeanor. However, before proceeding, Benedict sought clarity on the timeline for securing this crucial support. Turning to the red-haired member, he inquired about the feasibility of the endeavor. The red-haired member, known for his meticulous planning, estimated that it would take at least 2 weeks to persuade and gather the necessary allies. Benedict nodded thoughtfully, acknowledging the gravity of the task ahead. With a sense of trust, he delegated the responsibility to the red-haired member, confident in his ability to execute the plan effectively. As the discussion continued, Benedict reminded everyone of the faction's long-standing preparations for conflict with the royal faction. Despite the sudden eruption of war, Benedict exuded an air of determination, asserting their rightful claim to seize control of Cairo's power. His words carried weight, instilling a renewed sense of purpose among the assembled members. With Benedict's leadership, they stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Meanwhile, in a secluded chamber within the royal territory, Count Nicholas stirred from unconsciousness. As his senses gradually returned, he assessed his injuries, relieved to find that they were primarily external and not life-threatening. Memories of his recent encounter with Roman Dimitry, the enigmatic figure at the center of the conflict, flooded his mind. Recalling Roman's surprising restraint and assurance of loyalty to Cairo, Nicholas pondered the true intentions behind his actions. Before he could dwell further on these thoughts, Simon, a loyal ally, burst into the room, his expression a mixture of relief and concern. In the aftermath, Count Nicholas directs Simon to recount the events that unfolded while he was unconscious. Simon reveals that the royal faction is set to dispatch troops to the front lines, with Roman Dimitry appointed as their commander. Furthermore, plans are underway within the royal faction to launch an assault on Benedict's faction. Upon hearing this alarming news, Count Nicholas swiftly instructs Simon to escort him to the gathering of troops, recognizing the imperative need for his presence there.